dollars has been misappropriated, not stolen. They don't know where it is. There's a guy named David Walker. He's the head of the GAO. He's a really good guy. He's one of the best public servants in the United States of America. They call Walker in, and Ms. Schroeder knows this because she was on these committees. And the Pentagon cannot account right now for $1 trillion. $1 trillion. They don't know where it is. That's the fallacy of the Bush administration. They won't impose the discipline. So when the money is allotted to the education or the Pentagon or whatever it is, that it's run like a private company, that you have to go back to the stockholders and say, here's where the money went.
Okay, wait a minute. I really have to jump in here. The idea that private corporations are more efficient than government is absolute crap.
Well, that's the only thing. Now we part ways. Now we part ways.
There is something that economists are now studying, which is as a result of Enron, WorldCom, etc. It's called control fraud, when the fish rots from the head down, which is what happened at Enron. We have a whole chapter in our book about that. The idea that government in the private, why do you think the Pentagon is so screwed up? It's all private defense contractors with endless cost overruns. It's the $700 hammer.
Right, and nobody imposes discipline, says don't do that. You can't do that. You're absolutely right on that.
Private defense contractors are pulling that shit off.
That's not just in the defense industry. It's in the poverty industry. It's in the educational industry. It's across the board.
Am I being punished?
No. No. I'm sorry.
I wanted also to respond on the.
I just thought we'd have a Doug Jones argument over here.
Okay, no. I'm enjoying the debate. I'm enjoying the debate, but I could actually participate in it.
I wanted also to respond on the economic argument. I do believe in an income redistribution to this extent. Look at this current tax situation. 50% of the people in this country are now paying more in payroll taxes than they are in income taxes.
That's 80%.
Thank you. When the Bush administration discusses tax distribution, all they talk about is income tax. They could totally misrepresent the actual tax burden on people in this country. We'll quote a guy named B. Rappaport, who's rather an unusual Texas millionaire, and what he says, if you're making $50,000 a year, you're paying $8,000 in income taxes. That ain't put you in the poorhouse, but it will sure as hell crimp your budget. I make $1 million a year. I pay $400,000 in taxes. That leaves me with $600,000 to live on. You gonna feel sorry for me?
You deserve your money. You earned your money, all right? Now, you want to take money from people who have earned the money, all right? And you want to give it to other people.
No,
you cannot point to any constitutional
I don't want to give it to other people.
That says, look, if you want a socialistic quasi-socialistic state. Let's have a referendum.
Let's
vote on it. But don't take private property away from people and give it to other people.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Al, this is way over your head here.
No.
All right. Go back. We'll call you when we need you. Go back over there.
Unlike Molly, I am a liberal. And the idea that government programs can't help people is ridiculous. And I'll give you a story. I mean, you like to say you came from the poorest background possible. You've said that.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
From a working class Levittown
You said
background.
From the.
It's another distortion.
Did you grow up in Westbury or Levittown?
The Westbury section of Levittown, all right, which I've defined 87 times. It was on the A&E bio. You know, we'll send it.
By the way,
why don't you come over to my house? My mother lives there. Come on over. We'll have a bagel, all right?
Okay,
come on over.
I would love that.
Mrs. O'Reilly would, too.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, though. And I don't think my wife will mind because I'm writing about it in the book. When my wife, should I move back to the thing? This is yeah. Okay. I was just trying to get in here. There are a couple things I can talk about. I mean, when you say I'm way, this is above me, I remember being on your show and saying that in '93, Clinton had passed his Budget Deficit Reduction Act without one Republican vote, and you said, Al, that's impossible. And I said, no, he did it without one Republican vote. And you didn't understand, I guess, at the time, that both houses were Democrat. And both You know, so this isn't way over my head, okay?
We'll give you an honorary PhD, Al. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Anyway.
Any questions out there? Any questions from the folks out here?
Well,
you
wait a
guys
minute.
want to know anything?
Did Bill just cut me off?
Well,
Al, you had 45 minutes up here. Come on.
45.
No.
At least seemed that way.
It always seems longer when none of us have the microphone, I know, but it really wasn't.
Can I finish just about my wife's story? When my wife was 18 months old, her father died in a car accident. Her mother was 27 with 5 kids, one younger than my wife. They made it, scraped by. My mother-in-law didn't have an education. She worked in a grocery store in the produce department. She made it, barely scraped by because of Social Security from her husband. They got the house on the GI loan. They turned the phone off a lot. They turned the heat off a lot. They lived in Portland, Maine. But the government saved their ass. And this is, you know what, this is actually serious, this stuff. And the fact is, when Clinton, you know, you may remember that in the 90s, during Clinton, he raised the top level. And it didn't stop people who were in the top 1% from working or producing jobs. He created 23 million jobs. And every Republican said that was going to cause a recession. And you remember, it didn't actually pass with any Republican votes. Not one. Okay.
Well, all right, so maybe, let me say about all of this, this has been, last week was a very good week for me because as the author of the Family Medical Leave, the Supreme Court upheld it 6-3 with Rehnquist on my side. I never thought that would happen. So, one of my great hopes for the planet is if we all keep talking together, maybe we'll figure this all out. And I think it is very difficult. It's a very difficult time, I think, for everybody to try and figure out what's going on. But I think it's only
Not
fair
that hard.
that we open it up to the audience, because they may have some viewpoints out here. Do we have anybody who is not shy? There's someone over here in a gray suit.
Yeah. The question is the redistricting fight that drove the Texas legislators to seek refuge in Oklahoma, a great moment in the history of our state. I've been covering the legislature for a long time, and I've seen some strange maps before. I've seen districts that look like giant chickens and districts that look like coiled snakes. I remember one time during a redistricting fight, an old boy named Guy Floyd stood up and said to the chairman, Delwyn Jones, Delwyn, look here what you have done to my district. Got a great big old ball on one end and runs in a little bitty old strip for 300 miles. He's got a great big old ball on the other end. Now the courts say the districts have to be compact and contiguous. Is this your idea, compact and contiguous? Delwyn thought about it for a moment and said, well, in an artistic sense, it is. And the map produced by Tom DeLay, and that's exactly who produced it, was artistic to the max. It was sort of in the Salvador Dali school of art. Really a stunning piece of work. And I really do think that I know it sounds picky and petty because the whole thing is ludicrous. Nothing in Texas ever happens. I mean, serious stuff happens with very serious implications, but it always happens with this weird hitch in the get-along. And you just have to accept that Texans are always going to, you know, be producing ridiculous goddamn stuff. I mean, it just always happens down there. Ann Richards says, you know, the price of gas in Texas has got so high, women who want to run over their husbands have to carpool now. But there is a very serious point. Not only do the Republicans have no right to come back and ram a new redistricting map down anybody's throat at this point. I mean, listen, once a decade for this horror is enough. And the second point is that during the search for the missing legislators, a truly epic effort, DeLay called the FAA and the Justice Department about trying to track them down, and apparently our state police got the Department of Homeland Security, which is supposed to be tracking down terrorists, to try and find one of the plane that was involved. Well, you know, using government resources for partisan political purposes is really serious stuff. I mean, I realize it's a petty and absurd escapade, but that's really pretty serious stuff. And I just also wanted to say that as far as we know, redistricting is now dead. They may, unless they're forced into a special session, and at which point I think Governor Goodhair would put it back on. And let me say I call him Goodhair because Governor Perry has a head of hair that every Texan can be proud of, regardless of party.
Very good. Anybody else have a question? There's one over here, this gentleman.
Yeah, this is a question for Al Franken. I heard a while back you're working with Incl Media to try to get a liberal talk show format to counterbalance the controlling conservative talk show format in the corporately owned stations, which is even more important now because in the news with the corporations buying out multiple radio stations. Can you give us an update on those efforts?
Yeah, we're trying to get a liberal or progressive radio network together, and it's I want to do it. And if we can get enough, if I fail, I want to fail big. So we want to try to get enough funding together to have a huge failure. No, I think there's an audience out there, and I'm dying to do it. And the more I research this book, and the more I look at, and I'm sorry if I made this seem like the book's not, there's only one little chapter on Bill. But there are much more than the one. You'll really be interested in the book, Bill. But there's Bush stuff. I mean, there's just you know, just stuff that every day, not every day, but Bush will show up at a children's hospital, say that this is so important what we're doing, and then the next day cut funding. And he does that over and over and over again. And there were so many lies in the 2000 campaign. Remember, this was the gutted military. This was the hollowed-out military. The military, when Bush in his acceptance speech said if they were asked to report 2 units of the Army would have to say, 2 whole divisions would have to say, not ready for duty, sir. And of course they were, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said they were. Not only that, but Richard Armitage, in testimony in the Armed Services Committee a few days later, said, well, yeah, they are. And I went up at the White House Correspondents' Dinner to Paul Wolfowitz, and I said, didn't the Clinton military do a great job in Iraq? And he said, F you. And then we had a little argument. I think he was kidding on the square on the F you. I thought he was being funny, and I appreciated that. But Cheney said in '91, after the Gulf War, that any president fights with the military given to him by his predecessor.
Come on.
And he said the first call he made after the Gulf War was done was to President Reagan to thank him.
So the point is now that people lie in campaigns? Is that the point? I'm shocked.
No, it's that they lie when they're in office, and they continue to lie, and that also that it doesn't get out. It isn't fair and balanced. And what we want to do, what I want to do is be able, you know what? I'll tell you what. Talk about fair and balanced. When you edit this together, I know you're going to show this to the Factor audience. Can I be in the edit room with you to help, you know, kind of, because I would, you know, look, I would love the C-SPAN audience.
We were doing a propaganda show. I'd put you in the editing room. You're a genius at that. You're the best propagandist I've ever seen. But if you sit here,
Sean Hannity,
even people who agree with you in this room, even people who agree with you in this room, okay, they can't possibly think that you're objective, that you're looking at life to be fair, to come to a fair conclusion. Sure, the Bush and Cheney people told lies. But Clinton Gore didn't tell any lies? Did you miss the Jim Lehrer interview, Al? Come on.
Yeah, I think that
if you make a nice
I agree.
living, you make a nice living being a